It's December 1920. A freight train pulls into Tonawanda, New York, packed wall-to-wall with brand-new Model T Fords. The dealer who owns the local showroom didn't order a single one of them. His name is Edwin I, and attached to every bill of lading is a sight draft, a legal demand for cash, on the spot. Pay in full, today, or your Ford franchise is terminated by sundown. The country is in a brutal post-war recession. Nobody is buying cars, so Rose does the only thing he can. He walks to the local bank, mortgages his own future, and pays Henry Ford's Wall Street debts for him. What Rose doesn't know yet, what no dealer in America knows yet, is that he's just been turned into something the auto industry will call, for the next 100 years, an inventory shock absorber. And the bizarre, almost unbelievable consequence of what Henry Ford did that winter is this. Right now, in 2026, in all 50 states, it is literally illegal for you to buy a brand new Ford or Chevy directly from Ford or Chevy. You are legally required to use a middleman. And that law, the one that adds thousands of dollars to your car, was not written to protect you. It was written by dealers who never wanted to get crushed by Henry Ford again. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to 1919. Henry Ford has a problem. He owns Ford Motor Company, but he doesn't own all of it. The Dodge brothers, yes, those Dodges, own 10% of his stock, and in 1916 they sued him because he kept dumping profits into his new River Rouge complex instead of paying dividends. Ford lost. So, in July 1919, he decided to buy out every single minority shareholder. The price tag, roughly $106 million. In today's money, about $1.76 billion. Ford didn't have that kind of cash, so he borrowed it. $75 million in credit, drawing down $60 million from a syndicate of East Coast banks, Old Colony Trust in Boston, Chase Securities in New York, Bond and Goodwin. For Henry Ford, this was a personal nightmare. He despised Wall Street bankers, and now he owed them. Then the economy collapsed. The federal government yanked $6 billion out of the post-war economy. Auto sales cratered. By autumn 1920, Ford was losing about $20 on every single car it produced. And here was the cliff. On April 1st, 1921, Henry Ford owed $58 to $60 million all at once. Bank loans, federal taxes, employee bonuses. He had $20 million in the bank. In late December, he shut Highland Park down. Tens of thousands of workers sent home. The press assumed Ford was finished, and the bankers were already circling to take control of his company. This is when his production director, Ernest Kanzler, walked into his office with a number. There was $88 million worth of raw materials and spare parts sitting idle in the Highland Park warehouse. $88 million in steel, wood, glass, rubber. If Ford could turn that pile of parts into finished cars and force someone to pay for them, he could pay off the bankers in cash. So in January 1921, Kanzler called back a skeleton crew of 10,000 foremen and sub-foremen. They started assembling. Around 125,000 Model Ts rolled off the line. Then Ford did the thing that broke the trust between Detroit and Main Street for a generation. He shipped those cars to his 6,000 independent dealers without asking them. Each shipment came cash on delivery, sight drafts attached, pay immediately in full, or lose your franchise, forever. Picture being Edwin Rose, or W.E. Jordan, the Ford dealer in Belhaven, North Carolina, whose franchise Ford canceled outright on July 30th, 1921, as a warning to everyone else. Either you walk into your local bank, beg for a high-interest loan, and take cars you can't sell, or your business dies tonight. The dealers paid. They had no choice. Between January and April 1921, Ford extracted $24.7 million in cash directly from his dealer network. He sped up shipping logistics for another $28 million, sold Liberty bonds, sold factory byproducts. On April 1st, 1921, Henry Ford had $87.3 million in cash. He paid off the entire $60 million bank debt, kept 100% control of his company, walked away with a $27.3 million surplus. The Wall Street bankers never got their hooks in. Henry Ford had beaten them. And the way he did it was by quietly transferring his own bankruptcy risk onto 6,000 local business owners. Of that $60 million in debt, nearly 42% was paid by money squeezed out of dealers like Edwin Rose, who, on December 23, 1921, also had his franchise canceled. Merry Christmas. Now, if this had happened once, the dealers might have written it off as bad luck. But it happened again and again. The Great Depression hit, and the automakers, Ford, GM, Chrysler, went right back to the same playbook. Force unwanted inventory onto dealers to keep factory cash flowing. So the dealers organized. Through the National Automobile Dealers Association, NADA, founded back in 1917, they started lobbying, state by state, capital by capital. In 1937, Wisconsin became the first. The state passed Wisconsin Laws of 1937, Chapter 377, codified as Wisconsin Statute 218.01, the first automobile dealer franchise law in America. The language is unambiguous. Quote, "No manufacturer, factory branch, distributor shall coerce or attempt to coerce any retail motor vehicle dealer to accept delivery of any motor vehicle, which shall not have been ordered by said dealer." In 1939, the FTC released a landmark report confirming what dealers had been saying for 2 decades. GM, Chrysler, and Ford had systematically coerced dealers into buying excess inventory. State by state, the dominoes fell. Through the 1940s and 50s, dozens of states passed their own versions. North Carolina in 1955. By 1960, nearly every state in America had one, Hawaii the lone holdout. In 1956, Congress passed the Federal Automobile Dealers Day in Court Act, letting franchise dealers sue manufacturers if the factory failed to act in good faith. And what the dealers built over those 2 decades wasn't a regulation. It was a fortress, a permanent legal structure that exists, almost unchanged today. So how does the fortress actually work? Start with something called floor plan financing. When a car rolls off the assembly line, the manufacturer doesn't hold it. The dealer pays for it immediately. That money comes from a revolving line of credit, typically from a commercial bank or the manufacturer's own captive lender, like Ford Credit. The cars on the lot are the collateral, and every single day a car sits unsold, the dealer pays interest on the loan, which means the entire inventory risk, the carrying cost of unsold cars, sits on the dealer, not the factory. That's the structural job of a car dealership. It's a financial shock absorber that lets Detroit run its assembly lines at full speed, regardless of whether anyone is actually buying. To stop manufacturers from abusing this, like Ford did in 1921, state law builds protective walls. The most important is called the Relevant Market Area, or RMA. An RMA is a legal geographic boundary, typically 8 to 20 miles around an existing dealership. A manufacturer cannot open a new store or a factory-owned outlet inside that zone. If they try, the existing dealer files a protest with a state administrative board, a board often dominated by other dealers, triggering a hearing where the factory has to prove good cause. Then there's just cause termination. Under normal contract law, a business can just walk away when a contract expires. But state franchise law overrides that. To terminate a dealer, the manufacturer has to prove just cause to a state board. And just cause is defined so narrowly that even consistent failure to hit sales targets often doesn't qualify. Finally, warranty reimbursement. When a dealer does warranty repair work, state law forces the manufacturer to reimburse them at the dealer's full retail rate, not a wholesale rate. That's why your dealership's service department is so massive. State law has turned warranty work into a legally protected profit center, funded by the manufacturer, baked into the price of your car. Which brings us to what this whole structure actually costs you. Add it up. Floor plan interest, lot rent, commissioned sales staff, redundant local advertising, the protected service margins. In January 2000, a Goldman Sachs analyst named Gary Lapidus published a study called E-Automotive. Gentlemen, start your search engines. He calculated the cost of the middleman. His number? $2,225 saved per vehicle if America switched to a direct-to-consumer, build-to-order model. The FTC and Department of Justice independently estimated a 6 to 8% markup. On today's average new car transaction of around $48,000, that's a middleman tax of $2,880 to $3,840 every time, on every new car, in every state. The FTC said it plainly in 2015, quote, "A fundamental principle of competition is that consumers, not regulation, should determine what they buy and how they buy it." Which brings us to Tesla. Elon Musk looked at the franchise system and decided to just ignore it, sell directly, online, from company-owned galleries. In October 2014, the Michigan legislature passed, and Governor Rick Snyder signed, a bill specifically designed to block Tesla from selling cars in Michigan. In September 2016, Tesla sued the state, Tesla Motors versus Ruth Johnson. They argued the law violated the 14th Amendment, protecting dealer profits at the expense of consumers. In January 2020, Tesla settled. They got narrow permission to deliver and service in Michigan, but the underlying ban on direct manufacturer sales, still on the books, for everyone else. In March 2023, Volkswagen's EV subsidiary, Scout Motors, announced a $2 billion plant in Blythewood, South Carolina, 4,000 jobs, building electric vehicles. But under South Carolina law, Scout can't sell those cars to South Carolinians. They'd have to ship them out of state, to a dealer, who ships them back. In 2025 and 2026, a bill to fix this ran out of time in the legislature. Why? Because state dealer associations are among the most powerful lobbies in American state politics. Dealerships generate up to 20% of all state sales tax revenue. They're locally owned. They sponsor the high school football team. They buy the local TV ads. They donate to every state senator in every district. Whenever a direct sales bill comes up, the dealer lobby frames it as defending local family businesses from greedy global conglomerates, and the bill dies. Here's the twist that makes this matter right now. Electric vehicles have roughly 20 times fewer moving parts than gas cars. No oil changes, no spark plugs, no transmissions, which means dealerships, whose profits come overwhelmingly from parts and service, are structurally disincentivized from selling EVs at all. The legal monopoly is now also a brake on the energy transition. Edwin I has been dead for decades, so has Henry Ford, so has the recession of 1920. But the system Rose's generation of dealers built in self-defense is still standing. Every time you walk onto a car lot in America, you're walking through a piece of legal architecture poured in the 1930s to keep what happened in that Tonawanda freight yard from happening again. The next time you sign a paper at a dealership and see a fee you don't quite understand, $3,000 give or take, know that you are paying it because of a freight train in December 1920. A train Edwin I never ordered, loaded with cars he didn't want, sold to a customer who had no choice. And 100 years later, neither do you.